I'm going to look there. It's all just repeating. It's Me Too journalists. There are two types of journalists these days. There are the Me Too journalists who are just lazy. All they do is they read something in one newspaper or on one blog, and they report it in their publication.
Change a few words.
And that's all. They change some words, and that it's. I'm not going to say it's plagiarism, but it's the next worst thing to plagiarism. Okay. There's that, and then there's quack journalism, I like to call it. Quack journalism, okay? Hashtag quack journalism for those of you who follow me on Twitter. You'll see that from time to time. And that is just, stupid journalists. Just stuff that they're just so gullible. But anyway, so to me, that's the top story.
All right.
For 2020.
In my case, for me, and this, I just about lost my mind when I heard about this, was the story that would have thrown any other government out of office on its ear overnight was the training of Chinese troops on Canadian soil. I'm sorry, that is just so egregious. I don't know. I just don't know how to put it into words. We have right here in the valley one of the biggest bases one of the most significant bases in the country with CFB Petawawa. That's home to CSOR. That's home to there's the artillery regiment is there. There's all kind of combat engineers are there. The heart of the Army is based in Petawawa. Now, yes, you have the Dragoons out of Winnipeg, and you have different units scattered around, but they all it's like Winnipeg for the Air Force or Halifax for the Navy. Okay, Petawawa is the heartbeat of the Army, and you're bringing Chinese soldiers here. And trust me, they weren't just privates or corporals. These were lieutenants and captains in the Chinese People's Liberation Army learning our trade secrets when it comes to how to fight in the cold. Now, doesn't take much of an imagination or a stretch to think that we might cross swords with them sometime in the near future because of their aggressive stance, the way they're trying to manipulate world economies. Sooner or later, somebody is going to say that's enough, and we're going to get into a fight with them. I don't want them knowing our trade secrets. I don't want them running around with nuclear-powered world-class icebreakers in the high Arctic, claiming a third of the resources up there because they happen to have a third of the planet's population. Okay, I don't want them anywhere near that stuff. They need to be contained. They are a threat. And here we are teaching them how. And to go hand in hand with your top story is the fact this thing had legs for about 3 days, and it vanished. When's the last time you heard about it?
Well, I don't know when the last time was, but I'm certainly not hearing about it for a while.
Yeah.
Not a peep.
Nothing. And this, to me, is one of the biggest stories since World War II. You don't invite the enemy or any potential enemy that you can, like bringing the Americans up to cross-train, that makes sense, okay? Bringing, let's say, the French or the British or our traditional allies over to train and teach them how to be. We even have Estonian soldiers we're training. We have Lithuanian soldiers we're training. We have soldiers in the Congo we're training. Those all make sense. But China? Isn't that like bringing Stalin over in 1936 and showing him how to organize an army without wiping out his generals?
Right, and the fact that there were so few soldiers, there weren't that many.
There's 5 or 6.
Okay, you generally don't do this with 5 or 6 soldiers.
No,
and so when I saw that, I immediately thought, these are not buck privates or whatever. Okay. This is an intelligence gathering exercise.
That's what the camera is.
They're not here to learn about cold weather techniques. They're here under the guise, maybe, of doing cold weather training. But, mark my words, they're paying attention to command structures. They're analyzing communications procedures and equipment.
What logistics look like.
It is, to me, this was the classic intelligence gathering exercise. And, I have to say I was not always I haven't been necessarily the biggest fan or supporter of General Vance, who was the Chief of Defense Staff at the time.
Right.
But my understanding is that when he got wind of this,
he pulled
and they were gone immediately without waiting for any kind of government approval. And I understand also that the government, that the Trudeau government, the Prime Minister in particular, when he heard that the Chief of Defence Staff had acted in this manner arbitrarily on his own initiative, he was less than happy.
Hit the roof.
So I don't know. Maybe Trudeau had some kind of a quiet side deal going with the Chinese government, because we know of these two Canadian citizens, the two Michaels as they're known as, who remain in Chinese custody, their lives frankly in danger still, and we've been trying to find ways to get them freed by the Chinese government. So I don't know, maybe Trudeau naively thought, well, they asked if we could do some of this cross-trading, as you call it. What harm is there in that? We'll just allow it to happen, authorize it. The Minister of Defense, approves of it. So along they come, and naive. I mean, that's what I see. I don't see a nefarious purpose here. I see naivete on the part of the government.
Did I forget his name now? The guy who broke the story for the Globe and Mail. Him and another writer.
Well, the story originally was broken by Ezra and Rebel Media.
I'm talking about the one in SNC Lavalin.
Oh, I don't know. I don't recall.
That was two of our best journalists in the country broke that story. How hard did they dig, and how they very nearly pushed the government out of office over that. If they'd applied the same kind of pressure to this, which I think is a far more serious situation than SNC ever was. SNC had it was pretty disgusting, and it cost them a couple of people their careers. One a vice admiral, and the other Jody Wilson-Raybould and Philpott. I can't remember her first name. Anyway, they both, they wouldn't bow to what Trudeau wanted, and that was it for them. Anyway, the point is, if the media had done its job, never mind the billions we would have saved in scandals not entered into, they would have gotten rid of one of the most corrupt governments this country has ever seen, and we never would have had to talk about Chinese troops on Canadian soil. And that's why I picked it as number one.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm watching the clock here. We're coming down to the end of our show. So I think it's about time that we pause here to wish our listeners right around the world, because we have listeners right around the world. Did you know that the city where we have the most listeners is Washington, D.C.?
Really?
Really, yeah. It's interesting. It's more. Here we are in Ottawa, and we have more listeners in Washington than we have in Ottawa, interestingly enough. So,
well, let's hope that some lettered organization doesn't come busting down the door.
But whether you're in Washington or you're in Ottawa or you're anywhere in Canada or anywhere in the United States or any of our other listeners throughout the world, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for being loyal to us. We want to thank you for allowing us to come into your home every Wednesday night, for those of you who are listening to us live at night, or to take the time to listen to our podcast at a time that is much more convenient to you. We couldn't do it without you. We hope you continue to share our podcasts and broadcasts with your friends and neighbors and family. But in the meantime, it's been a tough year, 2020, but we appreciate everything that you've done with us, and we are looking forward to a great 2021 with you, and hope that it's a happy and blessed new year for all of you. So, Happy New Year from me, and Nick, over to you.
I have to echo everything Joseph just said. You guys make it all worthwhile, so thank you very much for being such a loyal audience. And with that, I'm going to let Joseph have those last few words, and I'm going to just bow out saying, Ubi caritas et amor Deo sibi est. Good evening, God bless, don't let anything disturb your peace, and may you have a fair wind and a following sea.